In Scottsdale, Arizona, Shanesha Taylor was arrested, and her children have been put in protective custody. She is because she left them in the car for about 45 minutes while she went in for a job interview. The children were 2 years old and 6 months. The witnesses stated that one of the children was crying when she discovered that the children were left alone in the car. She said that the windows were only cracked a little bit and that the car was in direct sunlight at the time, and it was about 12 to 12:30 at the time. Due to greenhouse effects, of course, 70-degree temperatures outside the car can quickly turn temperatures inside the car up to 100 degrees or more, and that day in Arizona the highs were at about 80, 81. But despite that, Sergeant Mark Clark of the Scottsdale Police Department has said that this mother is very upset and that this is a sad story all around because, you see, it gets a little more complicated. Shanesha swore that she had nowhere else to take her children during the time of this job interview because she's homeless and is currently living outside of her car and was in desperate need of this job, and so had to go in for the job interview anyway, despite lacking apparently anyone she felt that she could trust and rely on to watch over her children for that period in time. Taylor is being charged with 2 counts of felony child abuse and is expected to remain in jail until her trial date. An online fundraising campaign, however, who had a goal of raising $9,000 for Taylor, has nearly doubled that goal, according to reports yesterday on Thursday. So I'm going to open it up for discussion. What do you think, guys? Was she wrong or was she right in her action? Does she deserve her fate? And what sort of solutions could there possibly be to prevent this sort of thing from happening in the future?
All right. I got a couple of points. Obviously, in reaction to this story, obviously, don't leave your kids in the car. Oh, okay, that's a no-brainer. Okay, but that said, if your car doubles as your home, maybe the court system could make an exception. Look, this isn't the story of some welfare moocher single mother, right? No, she was applying for a job, and to provide for the kids that she left in the car, and had no choice, nobody else to watch her kids, nowhere for them to go. Normally, you'd say leave the kids at home. Well, the car was her home, and so, I mean, there's sort of my first point, right? My second point is the fact that she's being punished with jail time for being too poor to have someone to watch her kids while she interviews for a job that she needs is sort of the fundamental problem of America.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the most important thing I can say about this story is as soon as you go and make your donation to our Patreon campaign to help keep Jeff and Ree employed, you need to go to youcaring.com and look up the Shanesha Taylor fundraiser and make a donation there to help her out. It's youcaring.com is the site that's hosting this fundraiser, and so definitely go make a difference there. Then so after that, lots of things like I've got to be the regressive progressive here and point out like this cuts a couple different ways. One is there's the obvious point that like the argument that government programs don't do anything but keep people from looking for work is complete BS, because if this woman had access to some kind of subsidized child care, then not only could she go get a job interview, but then she would also have a place to put her kids when she got the job. Because like that's what the story doesn't really explore is like, if she got in trouble for leaving these kids alone for a job interview, what was she going to do with them while she was at work? Well, she's going to have to take out like a payday loan to be able to put them in daycare, and then at what's most likely a low-paying job. I'm just making an assumption there that a woman living out of her car probably isn't going in to like interview to be a CEO at a Fortune 500. She's never going to pay off that payday loan. She's going to pay hundreds of dollars of interest on it. She's going to stay in debt, and the kids aren't going to have a good life because of it. It's just there's so many things wrong here. But it also cuts the other way. Like, you can't leave your kids in the car. You've got to find a way to put them someplace safe. And I know that that's easy to say, but like once you leave them in the car, you don't really have a leg to stand on, because like literally like going to a church or a community center or a mosque or whatever, some place of community outreach, and like asking complete strangers, hey, I've got to go to this job interview, can you watch my kids, is better than what she did. Because not only did she leave her kids with complete strangers in a parking lot unattended, she left them in a hot car with the windows cracked. Like, there's, and again, it's tough. It's a tough place to be, and there's not a good decision for her here, and that's the problem. We need to provide people like this with good decisions, and we're failing miserably at doing that. But out of all the bad decisions she could have made, she probably picked the worst one. And it's easy for me to say that because I'm not in her shoes. I fully, acknowledge that. But thankfully, there's people out there like my wife who are part of the CASA program. So what's going to happen is, if the justice system does run its course in whatever good way it does here, she's going to get put into a program where she'll receive education and parenting classes and resources to provide a better home for the kids. And the kids will probably stay in state custody until she can prove that she's done that, or at least is on the way to doing that. And in all honesty, that's probably the way it should be. As much of a raw deal as this is for her, you can't have the kids in an unsafe position. You've got to do something to get them somewhere safe.
And it's like, you got to look at it too, like what should happen to her, right? For doing what she did, because in a way, like, there has to be some sort of, I don't know, thing to do to say that, look, to show that you can't leave your kids in the car, because that's incredibly dangerous, right? And we cannot discount that. But at the same time, our solution to that, to teach her a lesson, is to take her kids away and throw her in jail. That doesn't seem right either. Like, it seems like an overreaction to a mistake that could have turned out terribly. And I'm not, and I can't stress that enough. I think that it was a terrible decision. But once again, what was she supposed to do?
Right, of course.
And that's why it's a no-win. And I think that we're too quick to jail people. And I think in cases like this, we need a little bit of discretion, and we certainly need to be more understanding as a society and have that sort of understanding reflected in our justice system.
Right. I think that this woman did make an irresponsible decision leaving her children in the car, but at the same time, like you said, we're not in her shoes. What could she have possibly done? We cannot assume that this woman had any friends or family members on which to rely on. And I personally would like to think that there's some sort of agency, some sort of emergency child care services available, but where? How do you get a hold of them? You're homeless. How do you do that? I think that it's a mistake taking this woman's children away, because I think it's unfair to the children. I think that what has happened here is that society has failed her first before she failed her children. Her deciding to leave her children in the car was her making a failing decision for her children, but society has failed her because she should not have been homeless in the first place. That's the first thing. There should be, and I know Arizona is a really bad state for this sort of thing, in getting people emergency housing and getting people affordable child care and things like that. Those are the things that need to be made available if we're actually going to honestly prevent this sort of thing from happening again. Instead, we're kind of making the situation worse by taking this woman's children away from her, which is, it may be physically safer for them for the time being, but it's psychologically extremely damaging to them, and I guarantee that, especially I think for the 2-year-old in this case, it's going to stick with them and remain a trauma for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm going to have to absolutely, completely, totally disagree with you there, if I'm understanding you right. If you're saying that taking the kids away permanently, which I don't think is what's happening here, but if you're saying that, then yeah, I'm totally with you. You can't just pull her kids away and not give her a chance to redeem herself. But pulling the kids out of this situation temporarily, while figuring out what to do to make it right is absolutely the right thing to do. It's the only thing to do. You cannot leave those kids in that car, because that's if she's truly homeless, then that's where they would still be. You've got to get them out of that. You've got to get the kids someplace safe while you get it sorted out. Now,
and that's where I agree with you, absolutely, Jordan. I think those kids don't deserve to be homeless, and of course neither does she. And you can see it's reflected in the fact that was trying to find a job. She was trying to find a job, and she was going to a job interview.
Well, I'm not saying don't take. I wasn't saying don't take the children out of the car at the time.
She doesn't want her children to be homeless, and so, I'm fine with them, taking them for a time, giving them a place to stay while she sorts things out.
I think that she should be there with them. That's all I'm saying. I don't think there's any reason to keep her from her children. She didn't intentionally. I'm sure she knows what she did was not the best case scenario, and sure, yeah, give her parenting classes, which I'm sure she hasn't had access to. Find them a shelter to stay at together where they can be together. But as a mother, considering that this woman wasn't actually abusing her children, wasn't actually trying to do anything to harm them, in fact, the very opposite, was trying her damnedest to try to make a better life for them and do something to their benefit, even though she made a mistake in her judgment, I don't think she deserves to be in jail, and I think that an effort should be made for her to be kept out of jail and for her to be kept with her children in an emergency shelter while some sort of emergency home or living arrangement can be made for her and her children. Sure, take those children out of the dangerous situation of being in that hot car and living in a car on the street, but you don't need to separate mother from child in this situation, and I don't think she deserves to be in jail in this scenario. In 99.99% of cases, you leave your children in the car, throw them in jail, and throw away the key. They don't deserve to even have children, but this is the one time where it's an exceptional case, and I don't think she deserves to be in jail.
Well, yeah, but we need to clarify that she hasn't been thrown away in jail, or hasn't been thrown in jail and the key thrown away. She's been put in jail until her trial date to figure out what needs to happen. Now, I don't know that that's necessarily right either.
I think we can all agree here that jail is not the right option right now. That's not the right option. Okay, there's no reason for her to be in jail.